Yo, what is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about Wind Archer as a bossing mule. I'm going to take you guys through my Vmatrix, the nodes, how to boss with this class, how to burst with this class, tips and tricks, training, and everything else in between. I always say this, but if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. About 75% of you guys are not subscribed. It is completely free and it helps out the channel a ton. But anyways, now that we got that out of the way, let's get right into the video. So Wind Archer is a bossing mule that I highly recommend anybody to make. If you are a new player, if you are a end game player, if you have 10 bossing mules and you want to make an 11th bossing mule, Wind Archer is extremely good. And if you haven't made this yet, again, I highly recommend making it. This was my last bossing mule that I had to make, and I do not regret making this at all. This class is absolutely cracked. It has low cooldowns, high damage output, the skills look amazing, and the nodes are extremely easy to get. So I guess let's just talk about the nodes real quick. Wind Archer has probably one of the easiest trio nodes to get. So I use 3 trios, but I don't think that you need to use 3 trios. I'll put up the trios that I'm using on the screen right now. I use Trifling Wind, Stormbringer, Song of Heaven, Trifling Wind, Fairy Spiral, Stormbringer, Monsoon, and Fairy Spiral. Now, if you didn't want to get 3 trios, I think you could get away with just using Song of Heaven, Trifling Wind, and Stormbringer. That last trio is just so you can plug like a Monsoon or just a Fairy Spiral, like pretty min-maxy. It doesn't really matter. If this is strictly a bossing mule and all you care about is doing your weekly bosses, Song of Heaven, Trifling Wind, and Stormbringer definitely work. Now, in terms of the actual skills, Howling Gale, Merciless Wind, Gale Barrier, and Vortex Spear are the most important. And here's the order that you should max these V skills. Howling Gale is number 1, Vortex Spear is number 2, Merciless Winds is 3, Gale Barrier is 4, Vicious Shot is 5, and then Phalanx Charge is number 6. Obviously, there's more skills that you can max, but as a bossing mule, those are primarily the nodes that you want to be using. I'm gonna have a screenshot of my Vmatrix and what I'm using on the screen right now. This is what works for me and performs best in bossing. I haven't done this class justice at all talking about it. I'm a little tired right now, but this class is extremely good. Like, I'm telling you guys, this class is the best bossing mule, if not top 3 bossing mules that you could ever make. Again, this class has low cooldowns. It does so much damage. It looks cool. The movement is super cracked. Like, I haven't done this class justice at all, but if you guys are watching the video in the background, like, this class is just absolutely melting bosses. And what makes this crazy, what makes this absolutely crazy, is that I'm using full 10 to 12 star gear in this video. I have no 17-star items. I have no 16-star items, and this class is absolutely melting bosses. So I guess let's just get into the gear right now. So the overall gear isn't that crazy. Obviously, at first glance, you can see I'm using an arcane bow and an arcane glove. I did get very lucky with this arcane bow. This thing actually rolled tier 7 attack on the box open and rolled a boss IED attack for the pot. My Wind Archer's WSE is extremely good, but that doesn't take away how good this class can be for you. Just because I have a cracked WSE does not mean that you have to have one either. This class will still be very good. I did roll 3-line attack on the emblem, and I did roll boss attack on the secondary, which again is very lucky. Like, don't expect to roll this, but expect for Wind Archer to be extremely good for you as well. Like I said, I have full 10-star and 12-star gear. When this thing is full 17, this thing is going to be doing all of the weekly bosses in like 10 minutes, which is absolutely insane. The fact that this thing does all the weekly bosses in 20 minutes with all 12-star equips is insane to me. This thing is sitting at around 12k stat. One reason why this is a little bit more juiced for me is because obviously my main is a bowmaster and my legion is filled with dex legion, so it does have a slight advantage. But again, I highly recommend you to make Wind Archer as a bossing mule. Like, so I guess I just want to get into the burst real quick and how I burst. I'm no professional, and obviously if there's any Wind Archer mains, feel free to correct me on anything that I say in this video. Try my best, but obviously, you know, I'm not a main, so I don't know like the most efficient way to burst. but how I burst is I use Glory of the Guardians, Gale Barrier, Storm Whim, Vicious Shot, Emperor's Blessing. I'll bind the boss, use a B-Link, use Failing's Charge, Merciless Winds, Vortex Spear, and then Howling Gale. And this thing just melts the boss, like absolutely melts the boss. And it does this like every 40 seconds. Like the cooldowns are so short. Vortex Spear is 30 seconds, Merciless Winds is 10 seconds, and I highly recommend constantly using Merciless Winds off cooldown. This thing does so much damage. Like, it's crazy how much damage this thing actually does, and it's on a 10-second cooldown. You just spam this thing and it just melts bosses. And I guess now I just want to talk about some tips and tricks for Wind Archer as a bossing mule and some things that I didn't know while playing this class. Always have your Trifling Wind and Storm of Elements on. I know this is like something that is pretty known, but some people who are making this as a bossing mule might not know. These are passive skills and they do give quite a bit of damage. Make sure you always have Trifling Wind on and you always have Storm Elemental on as well. These are very important. So now let's talk about Howling Gale and how to efficiently use this while bossing. So this thing can be toggled on and off. When you are bossing, make sure this lock is off. When you have the lock on, that's for training. Essentially what that lock does is it makes the tornadoes move faster. When you have the lock off, it makes the tornadoes move super slow, so it does so much more damage when it's hitting the boss. And you should constantly be waiting for 3 stacks when you're doing your big burst. Essentially you just hold up and then you press Howling Gale and it will throw 2 tornadoes out, and this is what you want to do on your bigger burst. Obviously when you're just doing DPS and you don't have your burst up, I would just constantly use Howling Gale when you have 1 energy. You get 1 wind energy every 20 seconds. You can hold up to 3, but again, I would just recommend using the 1 wind energy off cooldown and then waiting for the 3 wind energies when you have your big burst up. Like I said earlier, use your Merciless Winds constantly. And Failing's Charge, we'll talk about this real quick. Failing's Charge is alright. It's obviously not going to do a lot of damage. It's just good for DPS, but you can control the way it's moving. So if you look one way and then you press Failing's Charge again, it'll change direction. Kind of min-maxy, but just a little tip for anyone wondering. Gale Barrier. This is a crazy iframe. You use it and you have 300 whatever this is energies. Pretty much just can't get hit until this goes down to 0. This is really good for Lotus lasers. You can just keep walking through the lasers. This class also does have a summon called Emerald Flower. Pretty much you click it and it puts down this emerald on the ground and aggroes the boss. I don't really use it that much just because I find that it gets destroyed pretty easily. For instance, Lotus like 3-shots it and then you got to put it down again, so I stay away from this skill. I just like using the wind walk instead to like dodge the push. Training is a big thing for bossing moves as well, so we'll get into that real quick. Training for Wind Archer is, I mean, you guessed it, training is free. Like, Wind Archer is one of the best mobbers in the game. Constant summons, constant FMAs. It just hits the entire map. This class is crazy for training. 10 out of 10 for the training, but all around Wind Archer is such a good bossing mule. This thing has everything and anything that you would need for a bossing mule. It has an iframe, summon, good survivability, good movement, low cooldowns, high damage output, extremely low nodes, and it's very easy to play. I know I've said this a million times in this video probably, but I highly recommend Wind Archer as a bossing mule. If you're just getting into the game or you're wondering what your next bossing mule should be, Wind Archer is definitely the way to go. I mean, as you guys can see, like doing a 5-minute Damien and a 5-minute Lotus with full 10-star gear is pretty insane. I might make another video on this when I get full 17-star gear and see how fast the bosses truly are. But once again, I couldn't recommend this bossing mule enough. If you guys have any questions about this class, please leave it down below. And if there are any Wind Archer mains, please feel free to correct me on anything that I said in this video. If I did say something wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments. But yeah, Wind Archer, overall, if I could give this thing a rating, this might be the first 10 out of 10 bossing mule on this channel. This thing is so good. This thing is amazing. I highly recommend. And overall, I'm gonna have to give it a 10 out of 10. You need to make this as a bossing mule. If you don't have this as a bossing mule, you need to make it. It is the best bossing mule in the game, and I hope I did it justice in this video. Anyways, like I said at the beginning, if you guys are not subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel. About 75% of you guys are not subscribed, and I would really appreciate it if you go down, hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel out a ton. But anyways, as always, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.